So, yeah, uh, I watched this really weird movie, right? But it's not just, good weird, or at least not truly good weird. That is not throughout. It's not consistent. It's just not. This. It's called Zombies versus the Lucky Exorcist. It has weird stuff, but it doesn't quite, doesn't have any consistency whatsoever. It's like putting in loads of food items and just being done with it, and that's it. It has a lot of weird stuff, and weird isn't bad at all, but it needs a proper storyline really to really make it good, and it doesn't have that. It doesn't have a proper storyline at all. It has a lot of mixed weirdness, and it's bizarre. And in the end, it doesn't really, sort of remotely fulfilling. And there's a lot of a bit. I mean, and I know that they are trying to be funny, but even on that, they don't really succeed very well, in my opinion. It's very ham-fisted, I think, is the word. Yeah, it's it's not really. I mean, I liked the banana. That's pretty much the best scene, I suppose. But other than that, it wasn't full of those sort of scenes. It was just full of supposed zombies hopping around, and sure enough, the hopping is, I guess, slightly more interesting than the usual zombie walk, but not very much more interesting. And in the end, it's just boring, really. No one knows what the heck happened to the small, so-called Dracula. It's just so bizarre. I mean, I don't know what the heck this was. It didn't have a story. This is the point, right? Like, the so-called ancestor of his opponent was defeated in the middle of the movie. I mean, that isn't really how you make movies, is it? You don't normally seemingly accomplish what one is supposed to do in the middle, and then just fizzles out. It's just the rest until he meets the grandparents, but even then it's just bizarre. He just gets some sort of breath and blows zombies away. I don't know. I've never seen a zombie movie that I like, to be fair, but when it comes to comedy, I mean, some people could do good comedy, even if it comes to zombies, but this didn't really. I mean, it could have been better, but this wasn't it. It's really, it's not really consistent at all in terms of what it could have done, and um, and there are some scenes which clearly are intended to provoke disgust, right? In terms of, sort of scatological humor as well. And, that is the lowest form of, I don't even consider it comedy, I just don't. And in addition to everything else, I mean, everything else wasn't really very funny either way, and that makes it even worse. So that makes it, these movies just seem to think that disgust is either, well, I mean, in comparison to, um, what are they called again? Um, Splasher movies, they use disgust there to provoke, well, actually, I mean, I suppose if people enjoy them, then I'm not sure if disgust is provoked, considering if they do enjoy them. I'm assuming some sort of thrill is elicited instead. But in my opinion, I mean, personally, they only elicit disgust. It's same with this. It's in my opinion, it's not comedy. It's disgust, right? And it's not at all funny, right? I mean, sure, ultimately, it's just, the chaotic so-called misadventures of all these weird characters. One actor playing loads of them as well. Not all, but loads. But it makes no sense, you know. I mean, those two, the so-called shaman and the his helper with the zombies weren't seen again after the second half as well. So it's a very bizarre film, movie, which doesn't really, I've seen better even in terms of comedy. I've seen better, you know. I just have, I mean, I know this is not trying to elicit horror either. Obviously, it's just not. But even if it did, I mean, it would fail so spectacularly. Because of the makeup mainly. The makeup is just really crude. Well, I'm assuming yes, it wasn't trying to do that, but it wasn't funny either. The makeup didn't make it funny or anything. So um, yeah, the only unique thing I suppose about so-called zombies was the fact that they had these Chinese-looking costumes on them. I haven't seen that anywhere else. But ultimately, it's just another boring zombie movie, really. I mean, most zombie movies, in my opinion, are boring, but this one was as well, despite being. I mean, there are a few. I don't think it's a majority of zombie movies that are comedic. I haven't seen them all, obviously, so I cannot judge, and cannot remember if I've ever seen any other comedic zombie movie. Can only remember, conventional zombie movies. Either way, I think they're all fairly boring. I don't really watch many of these, but when I do, I don't think any better about them really. It'll probably be a long time before I come across any good zombie movies. Then again, I mean saying that, yeah, I've come across interesting vampire tales. So obviously there were supposed to be some vampires here, but yeah, and in the end it does depend on whoever is writing the story. Obviously, they couldn't be bothered to actually write any sort of story here. Of course, one should possibly mention the translation as well, which wasn't, really, really good, but I didn't really care too much considering the story itself clearly wasn't investing in its narrative, clearly. It was investing more in its visuals than anything to do with the story. Obviously, clearly. Yeah, so I watched anyway, but it wasn't really that. But you know, I kind of noticed that it wasn't really a perfect movie in itself. Anyway, even if the translation was perfect, the movie itself. Anyway, so but that could have, I mean, subtracted a bit, but not really much. Anyway, I mean, the movie itself wasn't too good. So there we go.